Leslie, and today we're talking about being a godly woman. So I do realize that I am very young and very single as well, but I do believe that becoming the wife your future husband is praying for starts right now, no matter your age. So I will be making this exact video, but the godly man and husband version, because knowing what a godly man looks like and defining what you expect from your husband one day is just as important as being a godly woman yourself. So first, let's talk about the title. I want to give you a different perspective. So being a woman of God is a role you take on. It's a crown you wear, and once you put it on, you can't take it off, especially in marriage, because you made a vow. Choosing to be a godly woman means that you accept the responsibilities that goes with it, regardless of how your husband or the people around you treats you. You'll never achieve the results you desire if the way you wife is determined by the way he husbands. Our reactions must be determined by God's instructions, not their actions. We act in spite of the hurt, in spite of the betrayal, in spite of their lack of appreciation, not because of it. Being a wife is a calling, not just when we feel like it, not just when he deserves it, but unconditionally. So what exactly does this role entail? What are the responsibilities, your duties as a Christian woman and wife? Well, the picture God created describes us as the helper and the caretaker. Ladies, we are supposed to be making life easier for our man, and if we make it harder, we're not fulfilling the role that God entrusted us with. We have the power to speak life over others, words that encourage and inspire, words that bring hope. Have you ever saw someone who just immediately caught your attention? It's like when they walked into the room, the whole place lit up. Well, that's called the Christian aroma, the fragrance of Jesus. You are a representative of Christ. So when someone meets you, they should be able to sense and feel the presence of God through you. So how do we do that? How do we make an everlasting impression? Luckily, I summed it up for you. So here are 6 characteristics that radiate Jesus' energy. The first one is holiness. So there's 2 definitions I want to share with you, and the first one is to be dedicated and devoted to God, meaning you are sacred. And the second definition is usually how we think of holiness, which is morally and spiritually excellent. To be holy literally means to be set apart from anything that is opposing to God's truth. We must look and act different than the world. We must pursue holiness in every area of life, and because we are holy, we know our worth and we never second guess our value. We have to make an effort, especially in the world we live in today, to protect ourselves from anything that jeopardizes a clean and pure conscience. So watching sexual movies, listening to music that delivers sinful messages, or even wearing immodest clothing, which, by the way, if modesty is something you're struggling with, I did a Bible plan which literally blew my mind and gave me a whole different perspective on modesty, so I will leave that in the description. Next up, we have faithfulness, being trustworthy and loyal. This is also about having integrity, which means you're honest and you have strong moral principles. So an example of this is following through on your promises. If you said you're going to do something, actually go ahead and do it. Honor your word. If someone shared something confidential with you, don't tell anyone about it. Don't share it. Keep it to yourself. Even something that seems irrelevant, like downloading games illegally instead of paying for them, which I totally did not do that. It's a matter of integrity, and we should never sacrifice our integrity for any personal gain. The third trait is to be hardworking. A godly woman pursues her purpose wholeheartedly, using her gifts and abilities for the glory of God. And that must be your motivation, not a promotion or a higher salary. Whatever you do must be done as if you're doing it for the Lord. Because you are. Remember, you're wearing that crown. You're representing Christ in everything. Now, on the other side of this, you also don't keep score of everything you do, because you do it without expecting anything in return. So there's no need to keep score. Remind yourself that you have an independent role as a wife, which you accepted, and you do what you do without expecting anything in return. The fourth one is a super fancy word, altruistic, aka considerate, and it is the exact opposite of being selfish. So placing the needs of others before our own, and not just helping wherever you can, but seeking opportunities to lend a helping hand. One of the most beautiful traits in people is humility, being humble, and this is one of the core principles Jesus taught. To be a servant, it's not about me and what I want, it's about honoring others, which literally means to ascribe value to them. And the best way to do that is by placing them above yourself. When we're considerate, we're more concerned about how something will affect others than how it will affect us. The next one is graceful, and whenever I hear the word grace, I never know what it means because I feel like everyone has their own interpretation of the word. So how I describe it is by using a bunch of other adjectives. So in my opinion, grace is love, it's compassion, it's kindness. So I want to read 1 Corinthians 13 verse 4 to 8 to you guys, which is the Bible's definition of what love is. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it's not self-seeking, it's not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. Our greatest commandment is to go out and love people, and this explains exactly how we do that. Now, I quickly want to zoom in on something we just read, which is that love keeps no record of wrong, meaning that you can't be holding a grudge on someone and love them at the same time. They contradict, they can't go together. Someone is calling me. Hello? When you choose to forgive someone, you choose to let it go as well. You can't bring it up in the future or hold it against them. And I see that so much in marriages, and it annoys me because that's not forgiveness. Forgiveness is freeing them for having to take responsibility for what they've done, but it's also about freeing yourself from the burden of carrying the hurt. Have you ever heard of the word meekness? So this is an attribute that I admire so much in others, but I also struggle with it the most. And it basically means to be gentle and submissive. The elephant in the room. Let's address it. Society tells us that being a strong and independent woman means that you don't need a man to take care of you. You make your own decisions and you build your own career. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And submitting to authority doesn't have to replace that. Hebrews 13 verse 17 says, have confidence in your leaders and submit to their authority because they keep watch over you as those who must give an account. Do this so that their work will be a joy and not a burden, for that would be of no benefit to you. So as followers of Jesus, both men and women must submit to God, meaning that we yield to his authority. To yield means to give way to God's will, to accept it and to go with it. And if we fight against it, we're not allowing God to lead us. Now, in the context of marriage, this is what Paul says in Ephesians 5 verse 21 to 24. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. This is not a bad thing. This is so profound. You and your husband represent Christ and his church. So when people look at your relationship, they should see that resemblance. If you read that carefully, the first thing Paul says is that both of you must submit to one another out of respect for God. And then, second to God, wives should submit to their husbands. Why? Because it's an honor to be led by the man you vow to spend the rest of your life with. It's something to be proud of. You should want to submit to your husband's authority because you trust him. Just as being the comforter is our role, being the leader is theirs, and we should allow them to embrace that role and thrive in it, just as they should support us with our roles of being a wife. If you show confidence in his leadership, he'll be a better leader as well. And I really encourage you to practice surrendering and giving up control. Now, it's important to note that you'll never be able to submit to someone who you feel superior to, because submitting to someone while thinking you know better and you're smarter and you're wiser doesn't make any sense. So find someone who you admire, who you look up to, who you'll want to submit to. The other aspect of meekness is giving up the need to defend yourself. We are most Christ-like when we do not retaliate against unfairness. And by doing so, we also show that we trust God to stand up for us. We are brainwashed into believing that standing down is weak, but listen to this. It takes more strength to not lash out and not lose your temper. It takes more strength to hold your mouth instead of saying your say. It takes more strength to not fight against those who do you wrong. And while we've been taught to stand up for ourselves from a very young age, Jesus teaches that love comes first. So if standing up for yourself requires you to act unloving towards someone, it's not worth it. We must try and keep the peace at all costs. And while we might live in an unfair world, we live for a just and righteous God, and we can be rest assured in that. I want to leave you guys with the words of Solomon in Proverbs 31 verse 30 to 31, and he says, "Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate." Your beauty must come from within, and it must be shown through your good deeds, and that is worthy of praise. So value your role as a wife, and remember that even though you put God first, you can serve Him through serving your husband. Strive to earn a good reputation by consistently living out these godly qualities. And while everything around us is trying to dictate the way we behave and react, it's important to stay grounded in these principles. So write a small paragraph describing the woman you want to be and read it every single day. And remember, spray on your Jesus perfume every morning and take pride in the role you have as a female representative of Christ.